The first-class cabin was cool, scented with jasmine, a world apart from the chaos outside. Plush seats cradled them in comfort, the soft hum of the engines barely audible beneath the hush of luxury. Here, time seemed to slow, suspended between destinations, as if the world outside could not touch them. Dylan Wang adjusted his designer jacket, glancing at Shen Yue beside him. He tried to appear relaxed, but his fingers betrayed a nervous energy, smoothing invisible creases that weren't really there. Her smile was bright, but he noticed the tension in her hands, the way she fiddled with her scarf. Each twist and tug was a silent confession, a language only he seemed to understand. To the world, they were a dream couple, but the space between their seats felt vast. The gulf was filled with unspoken words and memories of laughter that now felt distant. They were flying to Dubai for a magazine shoot, celebrated for their on-screen chemistry. Cameras flashed, capturing their every move, but no lens could see the truth behind their practiced smiles. The airline staff treated them like royalty, but the gestures felt rehearsed. Every smile, every bow was part of a script, as if everyone was playing a role in a story written by someone else. Dylan wanted this trip to be a new beginning, to bridge the silent gap between them. He hoped the miles in the sky could somehow erase the distance in their hearts. He placed his hand on Shen Yue's arm, a gesture that looked loving but felt heavy. The weight of expectation pressed down, making even the simplest touch complicated. As the plane ascended, Shen Yue gazed out the window, the world shrinking below. The city lights faded into a patchwork of memories, each one harder to hold on to as they climbed higher. She felt detached, as if watching her own life from afar. The glass separated her from reality, turning her thoughts inward, searching for something real in a world of appearances. She was the girl next to the boy everyone wanted her to love. Yet, in this moment, she wondered if she even knew what love was anymore. It was beautiful, perfect, yet a gilded cage in the sky. The luxury around them only made the emptiness more profound, the silence more deafening. She closed her eyes, searching for peace, but only heard the engines pulling them further from solid ground. The steady drone was a reminder that they were suspended, neither here nor there. The glamour was suffocating, the expectations even more so. Every luxury came with a price, and every moment was weighed down by what others wanted to see. Between them, hope and anxiety mingled in the quiet hum of flight. In the stillness, they both wondered if, somewhere above the clouds, they could find the courage to be honest, with each other and with themselves. Stepping into Dubai International Airport, Dylan Wang and Shen Yue were instantly swept into a world that felt both familiar and foreign. The cool, conditioned air was thick with anticipation, and the polished floors reflected the chaos about to unfold. The intimacy of their flight vanished in an instant, replaced by the sharp edge of public scrutiny. Every step they took was watched, every glance analyzed. Flashing cameras and screaming fans greeted them, their names echoing in a chorus that seemed to vibrate through the marble halls. The crowd surged forward, hungry for a glimpse, a photo, a moment. Dylan's arms slipped around Shen Yue's waist, both of them smiling for the cameras, their faces perfectly composed. It was a practiced gesture, a silent agreement to play their parts. Their public closeness was a shield, a performance for the world, a way to keep the questions at bay. Together, they created an illusion of unity, even as their thoughts drifted elsewhere. They whispered, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." Just enough for the cameras to imagine romance. Their words were barely audible, but their body language spoke volumes to the eager lenses. Their team hustled them through the crowd, every step a photo opportunity, every pause a headline in the making. Security formed a barrier, but the attention was inescapable. The narrative of effortless love was being written in real time, each smile and touch feeding the story the world wanted to see. But beneath the performance, Dylan wondered if this was all they had left, if the act had become their reality, blurring the line between truth and fiction. Inside the waiting car, the noise faded, and their smiles dropped in exhaustion. The silence was a relief, but also a reminder of how much they had given to the world outside. Shen Yue stared at her reflection in the window, the glamour now a costume she could finally remove. In the glass, she saw not a star, but a young woman searching for herself. The silence between them was heavy, filled with things unsaid, with questions neither dared to voice. It was a quiet that spoke of distance, of longing, of uncertainty. The world saw a fairy tale. Inside the car, they were just two tired people, stripped of pretense, holding on to whatever was left between them. The performance was over for now, but as they stepped away from the car, the weight of expectation lingered, ready to return with the next flash of a camera. The real distance between them lingered in the quiet, a silent question hanging in the air. When the world stops watching, who are we to each other? The car glided through Dubai's luminous streets, skyscrapers glittering like stars. The Burj Khalifa loomed above, a beacon of ambition. Shen Yue pressed to the window, overwhelmed by the city's grandeur. Their destination, the Burj Al Arab, a monument to luxury. Inside, gold leaf and soaring fountains greeted them. Staff moved with practiced grace. They were led to the royal suite, a palace in the sky with panoramic views. A butler pointed out the private cinema, the grand staircase, the opulence everywhere. Shen Yue trailed her fingers over velvet, feeling like an actress on a set. The city lights below were breathtaking, the sea endless. This was the pinnacle of success, yet she felt more alone than ever. Dylan thanked the staff, calm and collected. The grandeur only amplified the silence between them. In all this splendor, their distance was impossible to ignore. After the butler left, silence filled the suite. Dylan loosened his tie, glancing up the grand staircase. Shen Yue followed him to the master bedroom, vast, ornate, and with two beds. The sight of them was a silent confirmation of the space between them. Dylan stood tense, his back to her, disappointment clear in his posture. Shen Yue had requested the second bed, but seeing it now filled her with guilt. "I'll take this one," she whispered, claiming the single bed by the window. It was a line drawn in the sand. Dylan turned, searching her face for answers, but only nodded. No arguments, no questions, just resignation. The silence was heavier than any words. Their shared history and fading chemistry hung in the air. The two beds were a monument to their uncertainty. In this palace, they were further apart than ever. The room's luxury only deepened the ache. The future felt more uncertain than ever. Shen Yue sat on her bed, staring at the shimmering gulf. The city lights flickered in the distance, casting long shadows across the room. She hugged her knees to her chest, feeling the cool air from the window brush against her skin, a gentle reminder of how far she was from home. The view was romantic, almost dreamlike, but she felt small and isolated, as if the world outside was moving on without her. The city's beauty only made her loneliness sharper. She loved Dylan, his laugh, his kindness, the way he made her feel seen. But love wasn't always enough to quiet the doubts in her heart. The world saw them as destiny, a perfect couple written in the stars. But the pressure of that expectation suffocated her, making it hard to breathe. She was young, her career just beginning, and the idea of forever felt like a chain she wasn't ready to wear. There was so much she hadn't experienced yet. She wanted to discover herself before becoming half of a whole. The city called to her, promising adventure and self-discovery, if only she could be brave enough to answer. Fame had changed everything. Their love was now public property, dissected by strangers and fans alike. Every smile, every glance became a headline. Every move was scrutinized, every decision analyzed, leaving little room for mistakes or vulnerability. The pressure to be perfect chipped away at their joy, turning private moments into performances for an audience they never asked for. Their relationship felt like another role to play, and she was tired of pretending, tired of hiding her fears. She watched Dylan unpack, feeling the silent pull between them, the unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. Sadness washed over her. Her uncertainty was hurting him, and she hated herself for it. She wanted to promise everything would be okay, to reassure him with words she didn't fully believe, but she couldn't. The words would be a lie, and they'd had enough performances. Honesty, even when painful, was all she had left. She wondered if she'd ever find the courage to choose, between love and freedom, between what the world wanted and what her heart truly needed. Dylan folded his clothes, focusing on the task to steady his mind. He'd hoped this trip would rekindle their connection, that Dubai's magic could work a miracle. He imagined honest conversations, rediscovering what they'd lost. This was his grand gesture, a chance to remind her of their love. But the second bed felt like a monument to his failing efforts. He swallowed his disappointment, determined to be patient. He turned to Shen Yue, sitting small against the city lights. "The view is incredible, isn't it?" he offered, voice gentle. It was a safe topic, a small olive branch. He hoped she'd take it, hoped for a spark of connection. He was still holding on to hope, however fragile. The city outside glittered, but inside, uncertainty reigned. He waited, heart aching, for her to meet him halfway. Shen Yue looked up, startled by Dylan's voice. "It's a lot," she replied, meaning more than just the view. Dylan understood, stopping a few feet from her bed, respecting her boundary. They stood in rare, comfortable silence, watching the city lights and moonlit sea. For a moment, they weren't celebrities, just two people overwhelmed by beauty. Dylan pointed to a distant boat. "I wonder where it's going," he mused. Shen Yue smiled softly. "Maybe it's just enjoying the quiet." Her answer was about more than the boat. It was about her. Dylan's eyes softened. He reached out, fingers brushing her arm. It was a gentle, wordless connection. "I'm here." The warmth of his touch sent a shiver through her. For a split second, she wanted to close the distance. The moment was fragile, a tiny island of peace, but it couldn't last. The uncertainty returned as quickly as it had faded. The next day, the desert shoot was a blur of heat and beauty. Dylan and Shen Yue posed as lovers, their bodies close, faces inches apart. The camera captured a fantasy of epic romance. Between shots, the distance returned. They stepped apart, avoided each other's eyes. During a break, they sat in silence under an umbrella, the desert stretching endlessly before them. The emptiness made their problems seem small, yet more real. Dylan wanted to ask, "What are we doing? Is there a future?" But fear held him back. The question hung in the hot air, unspoken but heavy. Shen Yue felt it too, knowing his patience had limits. The silence was no longer comfortable. It was a ticking clock. The desert was beautiful, but it magnified their uncertainty. They were professionals in front of the camera, but lost behind it. The moment of decision loomed, closer with every passing hour. Neither was ready to face it. That evening, the suite was silent, tension thick. The day's performance had left them raw, exposed. Dylan stood on the balcony, city lights dazzling below. He wondered if they could build something real from this mess. Shen Yue joined him, her presence a quiet question. The space between them was charged, the moment ripe for clarity. Dylan turned, hope flickering in his eyes, waiting for her to speak. He wanted her to say she was ready, that the two beds were a mistake. Shen Yue looked down, heart torn by conflicting emotions. The trip hadn't given her answers, only bigger questions. She opened her mouth, but no words came. The biggest question remained: would this oasis be their rebirth or the end? The city sparkled, indifferent to their struggle. In the silence, their love story hung in the balance.